I think that we live and die every day. I don't think there's anything to be afraid of whatsoever. And yet, of course, there's a part of us, this driven part within us, that requests that we survive.
This podcast encourages and empowers you to create your own unique real story, develop your own unique real statement, and discover your own unique real self. The power is yours. Good afternoon, Jill Prescott. Previously, episode 569 of the 12-Minute Convos podcast. It's been just 2 years, 11 months, 28 days, 23 hours, and 45 minutes since we last recorded that conversation.
Follow your heart. Let it lead your mind. It will take you to all the beautiful places that you are meant to go in this life.
That was then. This is now. How are you doing today, Jill?
I'm really well. The sun is shining, which is always very good for me.
There's something about you that connects naturally with the weather. Have you noticed that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because the time we spoke, I think you said you woke up to a double rainbow, right? So it's like you're very aware of what's going on with nature, what surrounds you. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. I'm very impacted by it.
Ooh, and then more so people that surround you. You love connecting with people. How has that evolved in your life today?
Well, it's interesting because as I age, and I am aging.
We all are.
What I've noticed is the amount of people I want around me has lessened, but the quality of people that I want around me has increased. So, I no longer seek attention the way I used to when I was younger, or the need to be admired so much or be surrounded by so many people. Really, what's happened is the depths of my relationships has gotten exponentially deeper, really. And as far as the nature and the earth goes, for me, that's a primary relationship. If I'm not in right relationship with the planet and with earth, then it's impossible for me to be in a good relationship with another human being.
And I mean, that really makes sense, right? Like, it really is that simple. Having great relationships with people, connect to having relationship first with yourself, having relationship with creation.
That's right.
Everything happens for your highest good. I think that was something that stuck out for me within the conversation. What are things that have been occurring over almost what is now the last 3 years in your life that has evolved into who you are today?
Oh boy. So lots has shifted within the work that I do. It's a lot more focused. One of the things that I was doing a lot of, I think, when you and I spoke before, was the intuitive work and the readings and all of that. And I've let all of that go. Interestingly, I don't do readings anymore. I'm not out in the world saying I do channeling and all of that. However, the essence of that, the underlying capacity to be deeply tapped in, weaves its way through my work even stronger, my work and my life, really. So there's been an evolution in what I offer as well through that. And personally, in regards to, and a little connected to what we were talking about earlier, I'm planning a move to a location not too far from here, but very, very different in that there's a lot more trees and a lot less buildings.
It sounds like a good move. Like, it's interesting, right? Like how that immediately sounds peaceful.
That's right.
Not being there. So what has inspired this move to do this?
Yeah, I spend a lot of time. It's called the Sunshine Coast out here in British Columbia. And I spend a fair amount of time out there. I have friends that live there, and Chris and I have also spent some time there. And when I go, I feel, like you said, very peaceful. I feel very connected. It feels very good. I'm very productive. And the moment that I am back on what we call the mainland, something changes. It actually takes me a couple of days to settle back into myself when I'm over here. I had a good cry the other day. I was working from bed, not feeling 100%. So I was on my computer working from bed, and outside of my window, I could see that they were cutting down this tree that the crows have been nesting in for years to put up another building right beside me. And it really just landed everything for both myself and my partner, Chris, that it was time to go.
Yeah, it's really intriguing. One, we are saying that it's improvement. And I mean, like yesterday, we were looking at a bird nest in our roof. And, it's like they're running out of places. There aren't places, for them to live. Who's taking care of them? Your concept of being vulnerable is something that I see continues.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. Yeah, I'm not sure what I would do without that. I think it flows into a lot of what I really stand for in regards to the message that I have for the planet about truth telling and being authentic and real and not keeping secrets. That there's so much freedom in just showing up with what's right there in front of us all the time. And I want that for myself and I want that for other people. So yeah, vulnerability is certainly a part of it. Yeah.
You spoke about Chris, right? And there was
Mm-hmm.
something you said on the podcast that I didn't dig into. You said there were 4 children, but none are living.
Yeah, so I have been pregnant 4 times, but never given birth. So that's a big part of my story, in fact, and a big part of why truth telling is so important to me. One of those, when I was quite young, I was pregnant and wouldn't admit that I was sexually active. And it resulted in them doing some surgery that wasn't necessary and missing, there was an ectopic. And long story short, it was the cause of my not being able to actually carry a child to term. So, I was pregnant 4 times. For me, that means there was 4 souls in my body, 4 beings that chose me to carry them for the amount of time that they were around. And so, yeah, I have 4 children and all of them are angel babies.
Would you say that meditating is something that kept your head above water, going through all of that goes with that? Because I'm reading this book currently by John Grisham, The Reckoning. And, I'm just right in there where they're talking about Liz and how she survived a few miscarriages. And, it really affected her. So what is the spiritual thing that's keeping you grounded?
Well, it is now, certainly, when I could turn and face and begin to heal from that, from the spiritual aspect. But at the time, I did not have that. I really didn't have any anchors when I was going through that. In fact, for me, because I didn't realize I couldn't get pregnant again after the 4th one, I spent 10 or 12 years, I guess, every month I would grieve. So it was very challenging until I started stepping into the work that I do now for my own self. When I turned towards creator, when I turned towards the spiritual aspect of who I am, that the deeper healing began, the letting go, the forgiveness, the releasing of the shame, and certainly meditation has become a part of my life in that way.
How are other people connecting with you?
Lots of ways. So social media is a big piece of it. I have a lot of referral work. So people talk about me and the work that I offer. I do a lot of writing. I show up on things like this with you, Angel.
For those that are listening, where can they go to check you out?
jillprescott.ca.
There we go. So Canada is one of the most beautiful places I got to visit. And the drive from Calgary to Vancouver is one that I was dreading, right? It was like a 14-hour drive according to the GPS. So I was looking across the journey and it was the one thing I'd always like close one eye in and look at it, right? And then I think my butt would shudder, right? Because of the driving, right? That I would have to make. But it was one of the most beautiful experiences I had, and truly I didn't feel it. And there weren't buildings, there weren't the huge skyscrapers. It was the mountainous skyscrapers, right? And that in itself, there was an energy there. If I look back now, and I can relate to what you're speaking about.
Yeah, it's really quite spectacular.
Yeah, it was spectacular. So, my friend, there's a conversation that we've been opening up, the conversation of death. How are you relating with that? Is that something you put on the back shelf and don't look at? Or is it something... Tell me more,
not
please.
at all. Yeah, no, I think that we live and die every day. I don't think there's anything to be afraid of whatsoever. And yet, of course, there's a part of us, this driven part within us that requests that we survive. That's a primal thing, is survival. And so I think the work to do is to understand that is a primal piece of us, survival. And at the same time, understanding that there's really nothing to be afraid of because we live and die every day. Every day.
I love that. Well, my friend, it is such of a grand opportunity, I tell you, to call and hear that you've continued on your path as much as it has evolved. I do wish you all the best on your move, you and Chris, right?
Thank you.
You're welcome. In closing, is there anything else you'd like to share with our amazing audience?
Is there anything else? No, I think that all I would like to say is the next time that you come through Vancouver, please be in touch.
Yeah, I'll have to come meet you. Like, yeah, I'm not sure how I missed you, but yeah, it'll be a great pleasure to see you face to face. So again, Jill Prescott, thank you, my friend, for being on What is Inspired by 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones. This podcast is produced by Pod Edits. Visit podedits.com for professional podcast publishing.